Hello friends, welcome to the final episode of AUTO-CAD Comprehensive Guide for Experts. This is the topic guide to this tutorial. Like, comment and subscribe if you find this video helpful. In this tutorial, we're going to look at how to insert dimension to an object or inserting dimension to an object. While drawing, it might be needed of us to add dimension to our drawing. We can add dimension by simply going into the dimension tab at the menu bar to see various types of dimension, the linear, the align, the arc length, and some other dimension options over here. So we can click out, then go into the annotation panel. We will see some dimension option. Over here, when I click on it, I still get the repeated dimensions, the linear, the align, the angular, and the arc length, and the rest. We will look into each of these dimensions as we proceed. So I'll click out or I'll press escape. Right now, we have an object over here. To dimension of this very object, we go into our command and we click on first. We have the linear. The linear dimension is used to dimension the vertical and horizontal length of an object. So I'll click on it. This time, I'll select the linear dimension. Now ask me to specify the annotation scale. So I'll choose this as 1:1 and I'll click OK. Then I'll select my first point, which is the end point of this line, and next point of this line. Okay, so you can see I'll then drop it at this point. I'll do the same for the vertical line by selecting our linear dimensioning. This time I'll take this point as my first point and this point as my second point. You can see this has been able to help us dimension the vertical and the horizontal side. Now next below the linear dimension is the align dimension. So this creates linear dimension that is aligned. For example, as you can see this very line over here, which is aligned. So to take the measurement of this aligned part, we click on the dimension icon and we select the align. Okay, this is called the hypotenuse part of a rectangle. So we select the align option. This time we select here, alright, and we also select here as our end point. So notice how my measurement is being aligned. I'll repeat the same for this part and this part. So I'll drop it over here. You will see our dimension figures. Now next we look into is the angular dimension. The angular dimension is used to measure the angle between two adjacent lines. To activate the angular dimension, we click on this drop down and we select it. Now this asks us to select the arc circle line of the object. So we first select the first object and then the second line object. Okay, notice how my angle pops up, which is the angle 72 degrees. I'll select my first object and then my second object. Okay, it's 60 degrees. And lastly, I'll do for this part, I'll select my first object and then my second object. You can see I can stretch it and to position it to whatever point I want. So I'll just release it over here. Okay, so let's move to the next example of this exercise. Now we have the arc length and the radius, the diameter, and the rest. We'll click on arc length. And notice this object has an arc-like shape over here. So to get the dimension of this arc-like shape over here, we simply select the arc parts of this section. So I'll click over here. Notice I get my arc dimension as 872. Alright. Now the next arc below the arc length is the radius. This is used to create radius dimension for a cycle. So I'll go ahead and I'll select it, and I'm asked to specify or select the cycle or the arc. So I'll select this very cycle. Okay, notice I get my dimension, which is 300. I can decide to place it whatever point I want. I could also place it inside. For this example, I will place it inside the cycle. Now press escape to place. Now I will repeat the same command for the smaller cycle. This time I will select the cycle and I will specify my position outside the cycle. So I will just left click and my dimension is being placed. The linear dimension can be used to measure the horizontal distance and the vertical distance of an object. To do that, I will select this point and this point. Alright, this is the vertical distance. I will repeat the same command this time. I will select this point and I will select this point. Okay, notice and I get my vertical height as 720. Now I will select it again, this time to get the horizontal axis, and I will select this point. Probably I will drag it up so I can get the horizontal distance between this point and this point. Alright, now the next dimension we will talk about is the ordinate dimension. The ordinate dimension gives us the distance position of an object from its coordinate point, just like tracing the x and y position of a point in a graph. Now to activate this dimension, simply go into the Annotate tab. Okay, we go into our dimension icon, click on the drop down, you will see our ordinate dimension. So we select it. This asks us to specify the feature location. You can see this measures because we are currently working with a 2D workspace which contains the x and y. So this represents the y-axis, which is the vertical axis. So I will click on it, and I will select my point, and I will take it to this point, which represents my x-axis, which is my horizontal. You can see the dimension number over here, which tells us the total distance of this point from the origin. To understand this better, now to understand the coordinates system, to understand the ordinate dimension better, I'll open a graph picture on our drawing. So I'll select it. Notice this is a graph which has the x, y, and x direction with the point value of 8 on the x-axis and 15 on the y-axis, which is the vertical axis. Alright. Now, the next type of dimensioning we'll talk about is a quick dimensioning, a continuous dimensioning, and a basic dimensioning. Now, to be able to access these methods of dimension, we go right into the Annotate tab, we click on it, you can see the panel changes. Now, just in the dimension panel, you can see the first command that says the quick dimension, and we also have the continuous dimension. So we select the quick dimension. What this does, it gives us the total dimensions of the selected object. So on clicking on it, I get the message, select the geometry to the dimension, which is the object to the dimension. So I will select this very object and I will press enter. Okay, notice I get the dimensions. I could repeat the same for this part by selecting here. I press enter, and also I get the other dimensions towards the left axis. So I'll press escape and I'll press Ctrl Z to undo. Now just after the quick dimension, I have the icon over here that says continue. If I click on the drop down, I can see my continue dimension and my baseline dimension. And before I activate my continue dimension, I will first give an initial dimension of which I will continue from. So I will select this particular endpoint and this endpoint, and I will drag it upward. As you can see, my dimension is 970. Now, after this dimension is being placed, I'll simply click on this and select the continue. Notice it immediately snaps to the endpoint of the initial dimension, and from this point, it dimensions other points. Okay, so I'll just get to this point and I will snap it. Now I'll get to this point, I will snap it. This point, notice how it has given me the dimension of this separate length segment. So I'll go to the next. Now I will snap it at the end point. So I can just keep on going and going. To undo, I'll just press escape. Alright, and my continuous dimension is being deactivated. So I'll press Ctrl Z to undo. Now, just below the continuous dimension is the baseline dimension. And the unique thing about the baseline dimension is, unlike the continuous that start dimensioning from the endpoint of the last dimension, the baseline dimension simply tracks the baseline of the previous dimension. I will click over on this drop down and I will select my baseline. And it asks me to select the baseline dimension. So I will select this very dimension over here, right? And notice I get the dimension figure. Now when I stretch it down here over here, you can see I get the total length from this end point to this end point. So I could go forward and snap my dimension over at this point. So I will keep going forward. Alright, for this I'll press escape to exit the command. Now you can see I have my baseline dimension. I could click on the icon and probably drag it up a little so we get to see it better, and I'll press escape. How to modify dimension lines. In our previous lesson, we learned how to dimension an object using the linear dimension, the align dimension, and other dimension types. Now, as you can see, we have an object over here with 8 dimension lines, which are quite small and can only be seen when zoomed in. In order to make our dimension line stand out, we are to modify its physical properties. To do that, we go right into the Annotate tab. You see our dimension panel over here. We click right into our dimension panel. As you can see, currently we are using the standard dimension style. We'll click on this drop down and then click on the manage dimension style. So this pops up the style manager. As you can see, over here I will get this icon specifying the current dimension style in use, which is the standard. So we also have other dimension types. As we click on them, we get a preview of what they are like. Okay, this is how the dimension properties change over here. So over here we could set the selected dimension as current, we could create new, we could modify, we could compare, we could double click to rename. So I'll select my standard, which is the previous dimension type I used. And I'll select the modify option. Okay, so this pops over here a window for the modification of our dimension. The first option I have here is the line, and the line properties is divided into two. We have the dimension lines and we have the extension lines. Now over here I have the color property for the dimension line set as block. I can click on this and change the color. Let's say I want to change my color to yellow. Alright. I also have the line type. You can see various line type over here. So I will leave this as block. I also have the line width. I could select whatever width I want my line to take. I will go with the default. So over here too, I have the baseline spacing. This has to do with the spacing between the dimension line and the number. Below I have the suppress option. If I click on this suppress line 1, okay, the first line at the left goes away. If I also click at the line 2, notice how the dimension line on the right and the left all goes away. So I will click it to leave this at default. Now next is the extension lines. So also understand the extension line, I'll open up a picture on our drawing. As you can see over here, this is an example of the extension line. Is the line after the dimension line. Okay, so over here I could change the color to whatever color I want, maybe green. I could edit the line type over here for the line 1 and the line 2. The line width, I can click on the suppress to suppress the line 1 and also the line 2. Okay, but I will leave this as default. Okay, I also have other options over here, but I will leave this as default. Now I'll go next into the symbols and arrow. Over here, you have the arrowheads and the close field is being selected as the default selection. So I can click on it, drop down and select whatever option I want. Okay, let's go with the dots option. So I could come over here and change my arrow size. So making it 100. Now the next is the center mark. The center mark shows the center point of a cycle. Now the next after the dimension break is the arc length symbol. So I will click on the above dimension text. To understand what this means, I will open up an arc length picture on my tab. As you can see, this very one represents the first option, which is the preceding dimension text just before the dimension, and this is the above dimension text just above the dimension number. Then we have lastly the one which is selected as none. No dimension symbol is being shown. So we'll leave our option as above. Then we'll go over to the next, which is the text. So in the text, I have the option to select this text style, which I will leave as standard. I can change the color. Let's say I will leave it as cyan. Okay. I could also change the color field if I want to. I also have the text height. And the text height, I'll make my text height to be 120. If I click on this, notice I get a frame around my text. I will click it because I want my dimension to be quite simple. Now, over here is the text placement. So on the vertical, the text is being placed on the center by default. I could click on this drop down to change the position I want. Generally, the center option is used for both the vertical and a horizontal. Now, below is the view direction. The view direction goes from the left to the right. I could change it from the right to the left. Notice how its direction changes. So I'll leave this as default, alright? And I will choose my text alignment as align with a dimension line. It could fit in. Next, I will go into the fit option. Each time I will select this very option over here and I will click on the suppress arrow if it does not fit in. So I will leave every other thing as default and then I will go into my primary unit. This allows us to modify the primary unit of our dimension. So now we have our unit format as decimal. So we select whatever unit option we want. I will leave this as decimal. I will leave my precision as 0. Okay, I think I could leave every other option. You also have the round off as 0. You have decimal separator as comma. The prefix represents the symbol before the dimension or while the suffix is after the dimension. So I could just write it as CM over here. I have angular dimension, so I will leave this as default and I will also leave other options. Now press OK and then I will click on set as current dimension style and I will click close. That is how the dimension of my object has been modified. I could see my dimension now. I could also see the suffix I added the cm. Also, I could see my dimension for the arc length. So this is how you can modify dimension properties or the dimension line on AutoCAD. Thank you. How to insert and modify a leader in AutoCAD. Now, leader is simply a way of adding a arrowhead to an object. It is mostly used to illustrate or to label an object. To insert the leader to either go into the dimension option on the menu bar. You could see over here our multi-leader, or we could go over to our annotation panel. Over here we could see our leader option. You can click on this drop down and you can see the various property option of the leader. So this time I will select my leader option and this asks me to specify the leader arrowhead location. So I have a spiral staircase object over here. So I will just select any point. Now before I do that, I will go over to my object snap node and activate my nearest option. I'm asked to specify leader arrowhead location. So I'll click at any point on this spiral staircase object and then I will stretch out towards my left, okay, and I will click out. Immediately I clicked out, notice I get a text field option prompting me to input a text property. So I'll just write spiral staircase, okay, spiral staircase. Notice when the text field is being activated, a text editor pops up over here, which gives me varieties of control on my text. I could change the font color, I could change whatever options I want, the paragraph alignment, I could include symbols and the rest. But before any of this effect takes place, I'll have to select my object and select whatever changes I want. And once I'm done, I will just click on the close text editor. Notice how my leader text has been changed. So I could do the same for here by selecting my leader, click on the object, alright, and click out, and then I'll write my text as telephone. Okay, now I'll click on close text editor. Notice my leader text has been added to the object, identifying this object as a telephone. I also have other objects, so I could also add the leader to them by clicking on this. Okay, this time I'll place it at this point. Now let's put it trees. I'll click escape. Notice I have other trees also. So to include them on my leader line, I'll click on this drop down and I'll press the add leader line. So this time it asks me to select the leader line, which it happens to be the source leader line. So I'll select on this leader line. I can now select other trees I want. Once I'm done, I'll press escape to exit the command. The leader line has attached other lines to it. I can click on this to also edit the position of my leader line to whatever position I want. I could change the text by double clicking it and making a correction. Okay, right, my trees. Okay, and I'll click on close text editor. My leader has been added to trees. I can also remove leader line. To do that, I'll simply go on this icon, click on it. You can see our remove leader line. So I'll select it. This time, I will click on the leader line I want to remove, and I'll click on it. Now press enter, and notice my leader has been promptly removed. I'll click on it also, and I'll select the leader line. Now press, once it is selected, I'll press enter, and my leader line gets removed. Okay. In this tutorial, we're going to talk about how to modify leader in AutoCAD. On our previous tutorial, we learned how to insert leaders on an object. To modify the leader in AutoCAD, we simply go to the Annotate tab on the home ribbon. Right inside the leader panel, you can see currently we are on the standard leader style. So we'll click on this drop down. Alright, you can see the annotate style. So right inside the manage multi-leader style, on clicking we get the windows of the multi-leader style manager. We click on the standard, which is the default current style I'm using. I will click on modify. We will increase the maximum leader point to 3. Then we'll go over to the leader format. So we'll leave this as, make it to be a spline, and we'll make the color to be yellow. We'll leave this as default. We'll go back to the content. Notice we have some properties of the leader. We have the text style, text angle, text color, and the rest. We can change the color over here by putting whatever color you want. Notice as I select the navigator, my text color changes. We click over here to add a frame to your leader. So on this, I will click OK, and I'll click as set as default. Now I'll click close. This time I'll click on the multi-line. I will select any point on the object, and I'll click. Notice how my leader now has a different leader style. So this time I'll put it as object, and I'll click out. Okay, notice the property of my leader style has been modified. I can also access other properties also by clicking on the manage style. We'll click on the modify. At this content, I can change the multi-leader style to the block. Now over here, I can see I have the block properties. I have the source block. I can choose whatever shape I want. So I'll leave it as the cycle, attachment as center extent, and I'll leave every other thing as default. Okay, right? Then I'll click set as current. Now I'll click close. So next I'll click on the multi-line icon. This time I will select my objects and I'll specify it at this point. So I'll make it 1 as a tag number. Now I'll click OK. Notice my leader style has been changed. I could go on to add leader line by selecting my leader line and connect it to this point and also to this point. So when I'm done, I'll press escape to exit. I can also change the object property or edit the leader property by clicking on it. Okay, to make it long. It is. And I'll just click OK. I can select its stretch to whichever point I want. This is how we can modify the leader in AutoCAD. Thank you. How to insert a table. Now, a table in AutoCAD can be used to store information. To insert a table, we either go into the draw tab on the menu bar, as you can see our table over here, or we could go to our annotation panel right below the leader. We can see the icon, the table. So we just have to click on it, alright, and this opens up a table windows showing us the table formatting. Now over here is the table style. I'll leave this as default. So I have also the insertion option which asks me to prompt how I want my table to be inserted. Alright, for this example, I will start from an empty table. I also have over here the preview of what the table looks like. As you can see, the table has the title, the header, and the data. Over here, I have the insertion behavior, which is how I want to insert it. I will be selecting this option which says insert specify insertion point. So over here, I have the tables parts. I have the columns, which is this part, and I have the rows. The rows are known as the data rows. So over here, I could choose to input the number of columns I want. At this, the column width is automatically defined by the height or the size of the text. So I will leave this as 3, and I will come over here and I will make my row as 5. Alright? So down below I have the option of selecting the cell size. Over here I have automatically the table in AutoCAD contains 3 rows. One being defaultly selected as the title, the other the header, and the other rows which is being filled as data. So I can click on this drop down and change either my title to header, to data, or to header, or to any option of my choice. So but for clarity's sake, I will stick with title. I will make my second row the header and the third row the data. So when I'm satisfied or when I'm okay with whatever settings I have there, I'll just click OK. Notice I can see the preview of my table on the window space. So I just click on any point to insert my table. Now immediately my table gets inserted. A text editor tab pops up over here on my home window, which this allows me to add text and other information to my table. For this exercise, I'm going to be filling the table with my new timetable. So I could type by just like clicking on any of the open cells and write my table. So now I'll come over here, which is my title, and this will be my header. So I'll come over here, click here, lunch, and then dinner. So now I'll pause this video and fill in the necessary food items in the remaining cells. Alright, I'll be right back. Now welcome back. As you can see, I've been able to fill in the food items on my table. Select my table and notice when the table is selected, I get the option to select any cell I want and apply formatting to it. So I'll select my title. Okay, I will select it and I get my text editor. This time I will change the color to orange. Okay, this time I'll make this, I will bring in my headers. Then maybe I'll just rather change the color. Let's see, yellow. Okay, I can also apply any text effects on the other item. I could change the text alignment of the text by simply selecting my item. Over there, I could see my alignment over here. So when I click on it, it is on the default middle center. I could make it top left. So I can apply other feature to my table. Now, first I'm going to be adding a row to my table. So I'll just select the last row over here. Where the text, I will select the last row. I will click on insert below. Okay, this you can see over here banner from the row. So I'll just click on insert below and notice a table is being inserted. So I'll just click on it again. I could also merge the cells. So to merge the cell, simply select the cell and you click over on the merge cell. You just click on merge all and all the cells are being merged. I could also add columns by simply selecting my cell. I'll come over here, as to the right and the row which being inserted. I could also delete my rows. So I'll click on it and using my rows get deleted. I'll do same for my column. I'll click on my column. I'll select my columns. Okay, let's select, let's make sure. So I will select all the columns. So I'll select all the columns I want to delete. And now I will click over here and click delete columns. And immediately my columns get deleted. So I can apply whatever effects or changes I want on my table. So you see I also have a text style. I can edit the borders. I could choose my layer. I could apply so many formatting. Okay, that's it for this tutorial. In our next lesson, we will talk more on how to manage and create new table. Thank you. About creating new annotated style for text, dimension, leader, and table. Now, on our previous videos, we learned about how to insert and modify annotate properties, the text, the dimension, the leader, and the table. In this tutorial, we will be creating new annotated style for both text, dimension, leader, and table. Now, to create annotated style, we go over to the home ribbon. Just in the annotate panel, we click on this drop down. Notice this opens up a dialog box for the annotate properties. As you can see over here, we have default save style for each of the properties. For the text, we have the standard. For the dimension, we have the ISO/25. Now, to create a new style, we click on this drop down. Okay, as you can see, we have AutoCAD comes with, as you can see, the AutoCAD comes with two default save styles, which is the annotative and the standard. So we'll click on the manage text style. Okay, this opens up the text style windows. At the right, we have the text style properties. We have the font name, and we have the font size. We'll click on the font name to change our font, and also we will click on the font size to change our font style, either bold or italic, or whatever font style you want. We also have all other properties of the text style which we could modify. But since we are creating a new text style, we'll click on this tab over here that is new. On clicking on it, it asks us to specify our new text style name. So we'll just write my text style. Okay, I will click OK, and immediately our text style is being added at the list of styles. So select on it and click on set style as current. When this is being clicked, it makes the selected text style to become the current style in use. So I will click on set to current, and I will click on close. So the next new annotated style I will create is for the dimension. So I'll click on this drop down. Okay, as you can see over here, we have the dimension style. We can click on it and it opens up the dimension style windows. We'll click on new. This time I'll write as my dimensions cut. So over here, I can associate my new style with any of these default styles, either the annotate or the ISO or the standard. So I'll just leave it as the standard. Okay, I will leave every other thing there and I will click continue. Immediately, this pops up the dimension style windows, which allows me to edit the properties of the newly created style. So I'll go back to color. I'll make my color blue. I'll make my line type as block. The line width, I'll make it 0.5. Okay, I'll just click on the suppress dim dimension line 1 and see it disappears. Over to the extension line. The extension line, I will click on it. I will make it green. Okay, I will come over to the line type. I will leave it as default, as block. So I will go next to the symbols and arrows. So I will make my arrowhead from arrow to the dots. Okay, and I will make my size 20. Okay, I will click here as none. I will come over here, my arc length symbol. I will click on the above dimension text. I will go back to my text. Okay, this time I will make my text 30. Now I will click out. I will click on. I will click out. Make it 30. I will click out. Then over to text placement. I will leave this as default. Okay, and the text alignment, I will click on align with the dimension line. Then I will go over to my feet. Okay, this time I will leave every other thing as default. Go back to my units. I will leave all this as default and I will click OK. And notice my dimension style has been added. So I'll just click on set selected style as current. So immediately my style becomes a current style in use. So I will click close and I will go next to the multileader style. I will click on the drop down, click on manage multileader style, click on new, okay, I'll just click on continue. This time I have the multileader windows pops up. So over here I could change the properties. Let's say I will change it to spline. I will change my color, let's color to have access to more colors. So I'll make this my color and I'll click OK. Now I'll make my line width 0.3. Select my symbol as open. Okay, and I will go to the leader structure. I will increase my points to 3. Okay, I'll leave every other thing as default. I'll go to content. This time I will select block and I will select my detail callouts. Okay, I will leave every other thing and I'll press OK, and immediately my newly created multi-leader style is being added to the style list. Select the style and click on set current. Then I will click close. Okay, so lastly is the table style. So I'll click on the standard and I will repeat the same process. This time I'll click on new, my table style. I'll click on continue. So over here I could change the direction of the table. You can see the direction is currently saved to down, so I will leave this. I could change my cell styles to header or to title. So I'll leave it as default data. And at the properties here, I could change my fill color. So I'll make my fill color yellow. I'll make it red. I'll make my fill color red. Okay, my alignment, I'll make it top left. And the format, I'll click on this drop down. I'll leave this as general. I'll click OK. So I'll read every other changes over here. Now I'll go back to my text. So I will select my text style as the newly created text style over here. My text color, I will make it cyan and I will click OK. So this time my new table style has been added. So select it and I will click on set as current and I will click close. When I click back on this annotation panel, the styles of my annotations have been all changed to the newly created style. I will be inserting an annotated text. I'll click on the text. This time I'll click on multi-linear text. I'm being asked to specify the first corner, so I'll select this random corner. Okay, so this time I'll write ground floor. Okay, I'll zoom out a bit. Ground floor. Okay, press enter. Since my text has been added. So the next I will be adding is dimensions. I'll click on this drop down, select the linear dimension. I'll click OK. I'll take my dimension to this corner and then to this point, and I will strike it here. Notice it contains the new properties of the newly created dimension style. I'll do the same for this other part and other part. Okay, so next is the header lines. I will select it, and this time I will strike the building. Okay, that is how it contains my newly created property. So I'll make this one. Okay, and I'll make this ground level. I'll click OK. As you can see, my leader has been added with this spline leader style. The last thing I will create is the table. So I'll click on the table. Okay, so this time you can see the properties of the newly selected style. Over here you can see my table style, which is the style I created. So I'll just click on OK. This time I'll specify here as my point. You can see my newly created table has been inserted. So I can go ahead and edit and fill in the cells with whatever information I want to insert it. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks. We are going to be learning advanced tips for annotated text. And the first example we are going to look into is converting a multi-line text to a single line text. So to do that, first we are going to insert our multi-line text. So I'll go over to my annotation panel, click on the drop down, and I'll select my multi-line text. So I will click OK. I will specify my first point. Okay, and I will drag also. Then I will drag randomly and I will release. Now the text editor option pops up. I can go over here and select my text height. Default is on 2000. So I will select my text height as 300. Now press enter. Now write text text 2 and text 4. So now I will do is to split them to stand alone. So I will go on this one. I will press enter. I'll press enter and then I'll press enter. But as you can see, our text has been separated. But notice it is still a multi-text because I get this icon here telling me it's an M text. Notice it is still when selected, it acts as a multi-text. So to convert this selected multi-line into a single line text, I will select it. Okay, I will go back to my modifier ribbon and I will click on explode icon. So once I explode it, notice my text can now act as a single line of text. I can modify them individually. Now the next one is converting a single line text to a multi-line text. As you can see, I have single line text, the single which is this and the smaller one being two separate single line text. To convert this single line text to a multi-line text, I will type on the keyword txt to mtx. So this is the keyword. So I will select it. Okay, and I'm asked to select my object I want to convert to a multi-line. So I'll use the cross method and I will select both single line text. Now enter. Immediately I will select it. Notice it becomes an end text. I could edit them as a group. Okay, I could then edit them as a multi-line text. So another example over there, I could convert this individually dispersed single text into a multi-line text. As you can see, I have different single text objects over here. As you can see, of different sizes. Some are smaller than the other. So now I'll be converting the whole single text as a multi-line text. To do that, I will repeat the same method. So I will type the word txt, but it pops up again. So I will select it. This time, I will select all my single line text. Now press enter. And notice the text all comes together as a multi-line text. By which I can simply select them and edit them as a group. So I'll just hit escape to exit the command. Now, the next property we'll look into is called the enclosing the text. Enclosing the text is simply adding a frame around the text. It's one of the advanced features of annotated text. Now, to apply this property to our group of text over here, we'll go right into the Express tool. Okay, now over at the text panel over here, we could see the command that says enclose text. So we'll click on this. Okay, now it asks us to select the object. We will right click and we'll select our object. Then we press enter. So this asks us to specify the offset factor. Now the offset factor simply determines the size in between the frame and our text. So now we'll leave this as the default, which is 0.4. We could increase it if we want to. So we press enter, and then this asks us to select the frame type. Should it be in circle, in slots, or in rectangle? So I'll go with the rectangle. Now I get the next option, which is constant and variable. Now if I click on constant, it takes a constant frame and apply to all the text. But if I click on the variable, it fixes the frame in accordance to the size of our text. So I'll click on variable. Okay, as you can see, Notice the size of our frame varies as regards to the size of the text. So I'll click Ctrl Z to undo. Each time I will repeat the same command. I will select my text and then I'll press enter. Okay, I'll use the offset distance as 1. I'll press enter. So I'll go with my option circle and then constant. As you can see, our text has been enclosed in cycle. So that's all for this tutorial. Thank you. Hello friends, you're welcome to this video. We'll be learning about the advanced features of annotate dimension. The first thing we'll talk about is the dimension break. Now the dimension break is simply used to separate dimension, the intersection of dimension line. Okay? To notice how the two lines meet at this point, and also in this other part the two lines meet. So when we insert our dimension break, it creates a gap between the two lines. So to insert the dimension break, we simply go to our annotate tab. Right inside our dimension panel, over here you can see the command that reads dimension break. So we'll click on it and simply set, and this prompts us to select the dimension line we want to break. So we'll select this line. Now press enter. Now notice it forms a dimension breaks over here, though it's quite small. So to modify the dimension breaks, we click on this drop down, click on the manage dimension style, and go right into the modify. Okay, so over here, go right into the symbols and arrows. So at this break size, as you can see, we'll change this to 150. I'll click OK, and then we'll click on set as current, and then we'll click close. So notice the break is now visible. And we will repeat the same for this section. I'll just type on the keyword in break. Okay, this is the keyword for dimension break. So we'll come over here, I'll select this vertical dimension, I'll click enter. It forms the dimension break. Now also dimension break can be inserted when the dimension line meets with the line of an object. For example, as you see, we have the line of the dimension and the line of the cycle meeting at these 2 points. So we insert dimension break to this point. So to do that, click on dimension break. And this time I will click on select on the dimension. Now press enter. So notice you can see the dimensions has expanded. Now the next thing we look into is the dimension spacing and adding of jog. Dimension spacing, drawing overhead. First, I will modify the extension lines. As you can see, there is no spacing between the origin of the lines and the extension lines. So to place a distance between the extension lines and the line, you go over to the dimension style, click on modify. Each time I'll click on my lines. So I'll make here 200. And I'll also make here 200. I'll make here 150. Now click OK. So now click on set as current, and then I'll click close. So notice I get the extension line gives a gap between this, and also adds an additional lines above, which is from the dimension line, adding dimension spacing to my dimension. To do that, go into the annotate tab. Right inside the dimension panel, you will see the icon over here that says adjust space. So we'll click on it, Then we click on it, then we select this dimension and also this dimension. Now, before the dimension spacing will take effect, two dimension has to be selected. So I have selected two dimension. I'll press enter. So it asks me to specify to enter the value of the spacing distance I want, or I can just select auto. So I'll select auto for this exercise, and now notice I now have equal dimension spacing between these two. Now I will use command, but this time I will select the three-dimensional lines over here. So I can just press dimension space, okay, on the workspace. I'll select it. This time I will select my dimension 1, the second, and the third, and I'll press enter. So I'll enter the value as 300. I'll press enter. Notice my dimension lines has been modified to the spacing of 300. So the next is we are going to talk about the jogging. Now the jog is simply a property in the dimension panel that signifies continuity or an opening. For example, you can see this is a corridor to this house, and there is assumed this is an entrance. So we are going to be adding this jogging to our dimension. And before I do that, I will select the dimension text, and I will shift it towards this part a bit. And I'll press escape to exit the command. So then I will go over to my dimension panel just after the dimension space with the dimension jog line. So I'll select it. I'm being asked to select the dimension to add jog to. So I'll select my dimension line and then I'll press enter. Okay, that is, I get the jog symbol. So I can click on it and then I'll be shifted to the direction I want. And when I'm satisfied, I'll press OK and my jog will be added. So lastly, we are going to modify the dimension text. The dimension contains the dimension line, the extension line, and the dimension text. So we could modify or change the position of the dimension and even change the properties. So to effect this change, simply select the dimension. Okay, so we get this command that says stretch. We can stretch it this point. Okay, we also get the command that says move with dimension line. So when we click on it, it moves with dimension lines. We also get other properties to move text only. This time I can move only my text. So you can see. So once selected, I also get move above dimension line. You see our dimension comes atop the dimension line. So when I click again, I also get center vertically. I also have a set text position which comes back to the previous setting. So I press escape. So now I'm going to be editing the figure of the dimension. So I'll just select it. Each time I'll make it 1520, which is 1500. I will press escape. But this doesn't affect the original dimension of this object. To confirm that, I will select my dimension, right click, and I get the property to over here. So as you can see, I get the text override as 1500. The original measurement remains 7682.5. I can also deassociate my dimension property, which include the extension line, the dimension line, and the text property. So that I'll simply select my dimensions, and I'll go back to my home tab and I'll click on Explain. So this time notice my text and other properties of the dimension are now independent. Okay, so I can edit them however I wish. Alright, we have come to the end of this tutorial. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to grow this channel. Thank you. In this tutorial, we are going to be converting our object into B-poly. The B-poly is grouped into two parts, the region and the polyline. And this can only affect objects that is enclosed. What do I mean? Object like this can be converted to a B-poly, while object like this can't be converted because it is not enclosed. You can see a opening over here. So now to convert this object to a B-poly, I can simply type the word B-poly on the workspace. Notice I get my command over here. So I'll click on it. So this time I'll click on the object type. So I have option as the region. I will select the region this time. And I'll click OK. So it asks me to pick internal points. So my internal point is the point inside the enclosed object. So I'll pick any point here. Notice the borders of my line gets highlighted. So I'll press on enter. Okay, immediately my object is turned to a region. So I'll try to repeat the same command for this. Select B-poly. This time I will select region. I'll click OK. I will try to specify points. Notice what it says. A closed boundary cannot be determined. The object I have here doesn't have a closed boundary. Draw another object. As you can see, this part is opened. So now I will draw another object. I'll draw a random object. Now I'll close it over here. I'll press escape. This time I'll type BP. This time I'll select the option for polyline and I'll click OK. And I'll specify here as my internal point. Okay, and I'll press enter. And then notice immediately my line turns to a polyline. Now the difference between the polyline and the region is that the polyline can be offsetted. We can offset the polyline while we can't offset the region. Now I'll use this example to explain the difference between the region and the polyline. Now I'll go over to the offset command. This time I'll click on the offset. I'll select my object distance as 1000. I'll select this very one. Okay, notice it's being offsetted to 1000. So I will repeat the same for my region. I'll select it. It's offset. I'll select my region. The cancel icon over here lets me know that I cannot offset this object. Alright? So that's it for the B-poly command. We'll be looking at changing the color scheme of AutoCAD workspace. Now, the color scheme of AutoCAD workspace can be changed to the user's preference. Now, to change the color scheme, we go to the Autocad icon and we'll click on the option tab over here. Or we can search on the workspace option. Okay, this time it pops up. So press enter. So this opens up the option windows. There are various properties over here by which we could change their default settings. Over here is the files, the display, and the rest. Now, to change the properties of our color scheme in AutoCAD, go over to the Windows elements. You can see over here I have the colors, I have the fonts. Okay, so I can click on this color. This opens up the window colors interface over here. As you can see, this is the windows. So over here is the background color. It is currently set as black. So I can click on it and select any of this color of my choice. I'll click on select color. This time I'll work with gray and I'll click OK. This is how the workspace has changed. I can go back and choose any other color of my choice, and when I'm done, I'll click on apply and apply and click OK. Notice how the color of my workspace changes. I will still go back, repeat the command. Okay, this time I'll click on my color. I'll change my color back to white. Over the interface element, I have various properties over here. Just below the uniform background, I have the crosshairs, I have the viewpoint, I have the measure line, I have the minor line. So I'll just click change the properties of the measure line and the minor line. So I'll click on it. It's referred to the grid lines of the AutoCAD workspace. So I'll come over here. This time I'll change it to black, and then I'll change this to white. Okay, when I'm done, I also have other properties I could change as well. So I'll leave all the other properties as default. Now click on apply and click on apply and click on OK. That is now how my workspace have changed. Now I can also change the color property of the whole ribbon. So I'll just right click and go back to repeat option. So whenever we want to repeat the last command, you have to use right click and click on repeat the last command. So this time I'll go over to the color scheme of my Windows element. I'll change it to light. Then I'll click on apply and then I'll click on OK. Notice my home ribbon color have changed according to my preferential settings. This is how we could change the color scheme of the AutoCAD workspace. Thank you. We are going to be looking at inserting and creating a title block. Now, AutoCAD comes with various templates and title block in which we could insert in our project. To access the title block, we go to the AutoCAD icon and we click on the drop down. Click on the drop down. Over at the new tab, we click on this. We scroll through this and we have the new drawing over here. Or we could go to the file tab and click on new. Still, rather, we can also use the shortcut Ctrl N. So I'll click over here and go over to the new bar and I'll click on my new drawing. And this takes me to the template window. So I will select this sheet set and I'll click open. I'll select the sheet set and I'll click open. Now this opens up the default saved title block of AutoCAD. Now when I click on any of them, I see the preview of what the title block is like over at the right side of the windows. So I can select any of them. This is the one for A3, this is A1. AutoCAD has 6 saved default templates. So to use any of them, you just have to double click. So I will double click on the architectural empire and I'll double click on it, or I can just click on open and my template is being opened on my workspace. I can draw whatever I want to draw on my title block. So now we will be creating a title block. I will press Ctrl N to start a new project and I will select my template as the AutoCAD ISO. I will click open. So this opens a new workspace. So I'll come over here just after, as you can see, it opens a new workspace. As you can see below, this is the model part of my new drawing, which is drawing 1. So over here, you can see we are the model part of the new drawing, the new project I just created. So I also have, just after the model, the layout. So I will click on my layout 1. Notice I get the interface. I will right click and I will click on page manager setup and I will click on modify. So I will go over here, I will select as PDF format and I will choose my paper size as A3. I will select the landscape and I will click OK. So my layout has been adjusted to the paper size of A3. I will click close. This time I will name it as A3 paper. Okay, I will click out, so I'll do the same for the layers too, but this time I'll make it A4. So I'll click on Page Setup Manager. I will do the same process, switch back to my PDF format, and then I will select my A4. It's on the landscape mode, so it's on the landscape mode. So I'll click OK, and then I'll click Close. I'll also rename it as A4 paper. I'll click out. So now I'll go into my A3 paper to create my title block. So you're right inside my A3 paper. Now in this layout we have the viewpoint. The viewpoint is the part that showcases the part of our drawing being viewed. So I'll click on it. In creating the title block, it's not needed. So I'll just click on delete to get it out. The next I will do is to create a layer for my title block. So I'll go right into the layer panel, click on the layers property, and I'll select new layer. This time I will name it title block, and I will click out. So I will select the layer and I will click on set as current. Now exit the command. Then I will click on the rectangle icon, select this part, I will stretch it and I will drop it over here. Make sure it's aligned with this inner dotted line here. So when I'm done with this, I also click on the rectangle. This time I will select it and I will place it over here. At this height, I will choose my width as 60. I'll press enter. Okay. So now the next thing I will do, I will explode my rectangle. So I will select it. Now click on explode. So after exploding it, I will select on offset, and this time I will make it 160. Now press enter. So I will come over here at my line. Now offset my line over here as 160. I'll click back and this time I'll make it 5 meters. So take it upward, I'll offset in 4 places and I'll offset 1 below. Then I'll click on the trim icon and I will trim out these edges. I'll also offset as 30 centimeter. Okay, I'll offset this. Now, and also I'll offset, I'll do the same for here. I'll offset this as 30. Now I'll click back at my trim and I will take out these edges. Make sure I'll take them out. Okay, now press exit. The next thing I will be inserting is the text. So I'll go over to my annotate tab and I'll select my text. I will choose the multi-line text. I'll come over here, specify here as my point, and I will share this way and I will drop it here. So here will be general notes. Alright, I will select my text, I will embody it, and I will click close. So my text has been added. So before I will place my text, I will insert a construction line by clicking on the drop down, select the icon over here, which is the construction line. I will select it. I will go over to my snap to object, click just the end point. I will click out. This time I will select this point, click it towards the right as 2 millimeters. Okay, and I will turn on my auto mode. Okay, this time I will place it here. Now press cancel. I will repeat the same by typing XL. Okay, take it to this point also at 2. Alright, I'll place it and I'll press cancel. I will repeat command by right clicking, click on repeat command. This time I'll select here and I'll take it towards my left at 2 meters, 2 millimeters. Enter and I'll drop it. I will exit the command. So now I'll be placing my text at this point. So I will go over to my object snap and I will make sure my intersection point is selected and my insertion point is selected. Just click and it will be ticked. So I'll click out, I will go to my move command, I will select my text, I'll press enter. Then I'm asked to specify the base point. So I'll take here as my base point. And I'll snap to this point over here. Okay, and my text is base now. So I will copy the text command by selecting the object and press enter. And then I'll take here as my base point. So I'll place it at other section of the text. Alright, I'll exit the command. Now I'll go to the offset tool, and this time I'll offset this in 10. Alright, and I'll exit. I will select my text over here, click on copy. I will select it, this point. Now I'll place it at this. I'll select my text. Now reduce the font size to 2. Now press enter. So now I've changed the font, so I will just copy it to other parts. Selecting as my insertion. Having done that, I will delete my construction line. It is no longer needed. So now I'll be inserting my logo as an image. To do that, I'll go to my Insert tab on the menu bar and I'll click on Raster Image Reference. This time I'll select my image, which is my logo over here, and I'll click on Open. I'll leave the settings as default and I'll click OK. I'll make sure I snap my image to this point. Okay, I'll take my scale as 0.5 and I'll press enter, and my object is being placed. Now it is too big for this section over here, so I'll be scaling it. So I'll go to my snap mode, click on it. Now select my midpoint. I'll click back. I'll click on scale. Okay, I'm asked to select the object, so I'll select my image. Now press enter. This time I'll scale from this point, and then I will trace my midpoint over here and I will select. As you can see, my logo has been scaled. So I can go and edit my text section of other parts. So here I'll make here as my company name and address. I'll expand it. Now I'll click OK. So I'll pause this video and customize other text. Now I'm done modifying my text field. I'm done creating my title block. The next thing I'll be doing is to convert the title block to a block, so I could be able to place it on other paper size and scale it respectively to fit in. To do that, I would go to create block. So this pops up a window. I will save this as title block, and I'll click on OK. And I'm asked to select object, so I'll click on select object. I'll click on the object and I'll click enter, and then I'll click OK. I'll specify here this point as my base point, and then my block has been created. I'll press on escape to exit. Now when I click on the drop down over here, I could see my title block. I'll press escape. So now I'll go to my A4 paper. So I'll be inserting my newly created block, title block, into my A4. So before I do that, notice I have my viewpoint T on the A4 paper. So I'll select it and I'll press delete. And then I'll go to my insert tab and I'll click on insert block. I'll take it to this point. I'll insert it at this point. Okay, as you can see, the title block is bigger than the paper size because the title block was created on the A3 paper sheet. So to match the title block to my A4, I'll have to scale it. So I'll click on the scale option over here. I'll select my object. Now I'll press enter. So I'm asked to specify the base point. So I'll come to this point and I'll click here as my base point. Notice it allows me to scale. So I'll scale to this point and I'll place it. Now my block has been placed into my A4 paper. As you can see, I could create other papers. Let's say an A1 paper and we rename it as A1. I'll click out. I'll click on set page setup, click on modify. So I'll make this an A1 and then I'll click OK and then close. So I'll select my A1. I will delete my viewpoint. Now go to my insert. Now click on the block. Now place here as my insertion point. I will scale it by selecting the object, press enter. Select this point as my scale. Okay, and then I'll scale it as to match the paper size. So with this, our title block has been created. So we've come to the end of this tutorial. Hope it was valuable to you. Please like, comment, and subscribe to grow this channel. Thank you. We are going to be learning how to print or plot our projects in AutoCAD. Let's say we are done drawing a project. As you can see over here, we have an architectural plan which contains the ground floor and other floor. Let's say we want to print it as a document. Now, to do that, we have to use the plot option in AutoCAD. We can get the plot command in the quick access toolbar over here. You will see the icon here that says plot or print the document. You can also search the plot command on the command field line PLOT plot command pops up over here. Also, you can access the plot command on the AutoCAD icon just below the published command. You can see the print. Okay, on clicking the print, we get the plot command. For this exercise, I will select my plot from the access toolbar. Now I get this message over here that asks me to select the layout I want to print. Now because my drawing is only inclusive to the model workspace, I'll just click on continue print sheet. So this time I get the plot windows. So over here, I want to choose the printer option. So because there is no connected printer to this computer, I'm going to be printing as PDF. So I have some PDF option, but I'll go with the WG to PDF. Alright, so below here, I will choose my paper size as A4. Now, over here, plot area, what to plot. Now, I'll click on this drop down and I will select the Windows. This window allows me to specify the area I want to plot. Now, I'll be plotting just this object over here. So I'll click at the random point and I will drag and make sure I cover the object I want to plot. Waiting that is done, I'll click on the preview to see my just covered objects. You can see our object preview over here. So I'll click on cancel. Okay, so next I get the plot style table. If I intend printing my object with that color, I will select the monochrome, which will print my document in black and white. I'll leave this as none, and I'll make sure I stick on the object width and object transparency. Okay, so below here I have the job orientation. I could choose my portrait or the landscape. Now over here I can see the plot scale is on the fit to paper, and if you look closely, the fit to paper scale is 256. Let's say I want to insert my own scale. So from the fit to scale, it gives me a hint of the scale I could use. So I'll unclick the fit to paper, and this gives me the option to customize my scale. If I click on this drop down, you can see I get other scale formats. Okay, but the scale I intend using is not found on this job list. So I'll click out. Since the fit to scale was given to me as 256.2, I'll make mine as 250. Okay, I'll click on apply. I'll make sure my center to plot is being ticked, and I will click on preview. I get my full objects being on my paper with all its properties shown. So I'll click on cancel, and once I'm satisfied, I could click on OK. And this takes me to the folder I will be saving my project to. So I will take it to my desktop, and I will name it drawing 1, and I will click on save. So this takes some time to load, and when it's finished loading, as you can see, my file document is being saved as a PDF format. So I'll go back to my AutoCAD, and now I'll be printing another set of objects, this time using a different paper size. So I'll click on the plot option, the icon over here, and I'll click on continue. This time I'll use the paper size A1. Now, after choosing my paper size, I'll click on Windows. This time, I'll be selecting another set of objects. So I will select this very object I want to print. Alright, so I will preview it. As you can see, the object is being inserted. So I'll click on cancel. I will make my orientation as landscape. Alright, now using the fit to scale, I get the scale option of 111.6. On preview, this is what it looks like. As you can see, so I'll click on cancel. Let's say I want to use my own customized plot scale. I'll click out, and this time I'll make it 150. And I'll click on preview, and I can see my objects being placed rightly. If I'm okay with this scale, I'll just click on cancel, and I'll click on OK. Or let's say I want to make it 128 rather. Alright, now I'll click on preview, and this gives me a more preferable option. So once I'm done, I can click on the print on icon over here, and it prints my document. So I'll do this time I'll name it drawing 2. Now I'll click on save, and my document is being saved as a PDF file. You can see over here, this is my PDF. I'll reduce it so you can see my drawing. Alright, so we've got to the end of this tutorial. Please like, comment, and subscribe if this video is helpful to you. Thank you. We are going to talk about or learn how to print or plot our project in the layout workspace. On our previous video, we learned how to print a project using the model workspace. On this, we are going to be printing on our layout workspace. So notice just after the model, we have our layouts. We can click on this plus sign to add a new layout to our work. We could also right click and we can delete or rename. I will click on this layout one, I will right click and I will name it A3 layout. I'll click out. Now, after naming it, before I print or plot my project, I'll first edit the layout properties. To edit the layout property, I will click on it, right click, and click on Page Setup Manager. On clicking it, I see my renamed layout. I'll click on Modify. So this pops up a plot windows for me. So I will select my printer type to GWG to PDF. Also, I will choose my paper size as A3 landscape. I will leave every other thing as default. I will click on plot transparency and I will click on OK. So this time I will click close. Now this viewpoint is not matching my newly modified layout. So I will click on it and I will delete. Okay, now to insert a viewpoint, I will go to the Layers tab. Over at the Layout Viewpoint panel, I can see the rectangle type. If I click on this drop down, I get other ways of inserting a viewpoint. But the rectangle seems to be the simplest. So I will select the rectangle and now it wants me to specify the corners of the viewpoint. So I will click on this point, okay, and I will drag just like drawing the rectangle, and I will take it to this very point and specify the second corner. As you can see, my viewpoint has been inserted. I can now see my object. Now I'll click on it to scale. Notice I get the annotated scale as 1.1. I could click on it and probably adjust it to the scale I want. So I have the scale of 1:100, 1:50. Maybe I'll work with 1:5. Okay, I can zoom. I can click into the workspace and zoom out to see. Now I can modify my project using the viewport. I will just double click into the viewport. I can zoom. I can also pan. So I will take it to the center. Okay, I will zoom it a bit and make sure it is at the point I want it to be. Use triangle, text, dimension, and other properties. In this tutorial, now we'll be adding a text to our drawing, but first I will zoom it and make sure it is balanced. So now to add the text, I'll go to my text icon, click on the drop down. This time I'll be selecting my single line text option. So I'll come below, I will specify this point and I will choose the height to this point. So now I'll write this as project 1 and then I will click out. I can also reduce the height by clicking on this. I will make it, as you can see, I've reduced the height to 5,000. So I will click and move it to any corner I want. And when I'm satisfied with my layout and my drawing, I will click on the plot icon over here. So, and I will click on continue because I only want to plot just this diagram over here on the layout. So I'll click on continue. I will leave every setting over here as previously modified and I'll click on OK. I'll delete and put the name drawing to. Okay, and when I'm done, I'll click on save. You'll notice my file is being processed and saved. As you can see, now we can see our objects. We zoom out. So this is how we can print objects on the layout workspace. Please like and subscribe if this video is helpful to you. Thank you.